Shedding Shackles is sponsored by Roland Trujillo.
Today's program is about the still small voice. Still means silent or quiet. God rarely talks to us with words. Mostly, He shines a light on things so that we can see. And He makes us aware of His will, and He makes us aware of which way to go by way of the faculty of conscience, which we also know as intuition. It's what you know in your heart. Listen to these beautiful verses from 1 Kings chapter 19, where the Lord speaks to Elijah. Then the Lord said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord. Behold, the Lord is about to pass by." And a great and mighty wind tore into the mountains and shattered the rocks before the Lord, but the Lord was not in the wind. After the wind there was an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire came a still small voice. We're going to be talking about the still small voice, where it is, how to find it, and how it can lead you to safety and to what the good Lord intended for you. And we call that conscience. It's present sight, a little bit of foresight, and when you stray from what you know in your heart, you know it as conscience.
Welcome to Shedding Shackles. Today's topic is Receive God's Love. And now, here's your Shedding Shackles host, Roland Trujillo.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. A lot of people go through life, and they have their job, they have a family, they have recreation, and they find meaning in work. And they find meaning in family, and they find meaning in some other areas of life. But ultimately, something is missing. Somehow, something is missing. And what is missing is God. And how is it that human beings could possibly not know that He's there? Well, that's hard to fathom. Hard to fathom, but that's what people do. The greatest security of all is to know that God is there. And so, conscience, or the still small voice, in my opinion, is the way on a day-by-day basis to begin to discover and to know and to trust and to have faith in God, and that He is there, and to know that He is there, and to know that He knows you, and He is showing you ever so gently the way that He would like you to go. All right, so with that groundwork having been laid, how can you make it so that you can be aware of God? Instead of being like the people that are so unaware of God that they don't even know that He exists, and if He does exist, they're totally away from Him. How can you become a person who is closer to God? Well, here's the answer. That's what we're going to be talking about. And the answer is relatively easy. It's something that you overlook, and that is stay close to your conscience. Find your conscience, stay close to it, pay attention to it, okay? And that's how you can start to stay closer to God, because your conscience will remind you when you fall away from it, which God allows you to sometimes just do things. You know, you're playing tennis or something, fine. But once in a while, your conscience reminds you or brings your attention to something or alerts you, and you become more aware and you pay attention to that still small voice of conscience. It's so beautiful. That's the way to do it. And that's what we're going to continue talking about. And its promptings, what it's gently and wordlessly showing you what it's making you aware of. And when you notice its delicate promptings and what it's making you aware of and what it's showing you, it brings new meaning into your life, new understanding, or at least a new direction. You may not immediately know why it's showing you or making you aware of something, usually just some little thing, but there's a reason. And if you pay attention, then eventually you will know. You will find yourself going in the right direction instead of the wrong direction. And in due time, you'll discover the meaning of it, or the meaning will flower in your life. In other words, when Einstein was a little boy and a teenager, he loved compasses and magnetism, and he was given a geometry book as a gift, and he loved geometry. Why did he love geometry? Why was he interested in magnetism? He didn't know at the time. He just was. But later it became obvious the direction that his intuition was leading him. In other words, the direction the good Lord was leading him. You see? But it's always a small thing, a little thing, and conscience is the still small voice. And it reminds you. So you go out, you do this, and you do that, and then it reminds you, or it shows you something, and you sort of remember God. And by noticing the little things that he shows you through conscience, by not going the wrong way, by going the right way, by trusting your intuition instead of doubting it. See, we pay more attention to what other people say than to what our own conscience is telling us, what your own common sense is telling you. And when you trust what you're wordlessly and gently given to know, and you follow that, that becomes a life of faith. And it always leads to good things, and ultimately it leads to God.
You're listening to Shedding Shackles with Roland Trujillo, Christian stress management on the radio for over 34 years. Are you feeling stressed out? Do you find yourself worrying a lot? Maybe Christian stress management could help. Want to find out more? Why not check out Shedding Shackles with Roland Trujillo, which airs weekends on this station? You'll be glad you did. Once again, that's Shedding Shackles every weekend on this station, or 24/7 at sheddingshackles.com.
You're listening to Shedding Shackles, helping you navigate life's challenges with poise and confidence.
All right, so with that groundwork having been laid, how can you make it so that you can be aware of God and do a lot of things, and yet God is always there in our life? Well, first of all, I think it needs for Him to reach out and to touch us from time to time. Now, Paul, you remember Paul? He was kind of messing up. He was a religious guy, but he was devoted to trying to give Christians a hard time. That's what he was devoted to. But then Christ reached out and got his attention in a big way on the road to Damascus. You can read the story in the Bible. Paul was struck down. He saw a bright white light, and then he went blind. And Christ appeared and said, "Why are you persecuting me?" God, and of course Christ, made provision for Paul to get his sight back. And then he was anointed to bring a message of the kingdom of God to the Gentiles. So the story has a happy ending. But the point I'm trying to get at is that God had to get his attention in a big way. So what I want to say to you today is that although God can get a hold of you and make you aware of something in a very big way, he often will choose the little way. And the littlest of all is what we know as conscience, the still small voice. And he often uses your conscience, your intuition, what you know in your heart, as a way of making you aware of his will and his way and what is good for you and not good for you. Little things are important, and the littlest of all is intuition. And so, a lot of times, scientists have noticed some little thing. And how did they notice it, or why did they notice it? Well, it could very well be that intuitively they're supposed to notice it. It was brought to their attention by their intuition or by their conscience. And they noticed that little thing, and it led to something great. For example, Dr. Alexander Fleming came back from vacation, and he noticed that there was a green mold growing in a petri dish in his laboratory. And he looked at that green mold, and he noticed that the area around the green mold was free of bacteria. Noticing that little thing led to the discovery of penicillin. Swiss engineer George de Mestral went out for a walk with his dog, and when he came back, he noticed that he and his dog were both covered in tiny barbs of the cocklebur plant. On close inspection, he saw that the burrs were shaped like little tiny hooks, which snapped on the loops of his clothing and his dog's fur. He noticed that little thing, and then he worked on it, and it led to the invention of Velcro. A lot of people think that Velcro was invented by NASA. No, although NASA makes good use of Velcro, and we all do, it was invented by Mr. George de Mestral when he noticed that the cockleburs had little hooks on them. Little things are important, and the most important of all is the little thing called conscience or intuition.
Hi, my name is Andrew. You're listening to Shedding Shackles with your host, Roland Trujillo. Roland brings old-time religion to life as he talks about repentance and turning back to God. Roland makes a new program every week just for the radio listener, so be sure to take advantage of this special resource. Roland wants you to know that Shedding Shackles is easy to find at your favorite podcast place. Just look for Shedding Shackles. Roland says that since his program is only on the radio once or twice a week, you really should check out the podcast so you can listen again. Thanks and blessings.
Are you looking for something to help with stress? Is stress interfering with your prayer life? Are you interested in making a fresh start? You've come to the right place. Why not try Roland's free meditation? Give it a try today at sheddingshackles.com.
You're listening to Shedding Shackles, helping you navigate life's challenges with poise and confidence. If you have a question or need advice, call our listener call-in line at 510-455-8851.
Shedding Shackles podcasts are available at Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back. And now, here's Roland.
People think that Velcro was invented by NASA. It was invented by Mr. George de Mestral when he noticed that the cockleburs had little hooks on them. Little things are important, and the most important of all is the little thing called conscience or intuition. Now, a lot of us have fallen away from our conscience, so we hardly even know that it exists anymore. We just sense that it's a vague anxiety. But we all know what conscience is. You know, when you were a little child and you did something wrong and then you felt bad afterwards. Well, that's conscience. But I want you to see that conscience, I've always said, conscience is your closest link to God. So if you are about to do something wrong or you just did something wrong and you sense deeply that it's not something you should do. Well, you could say that God is reaching out and making you aware. He's showing you. He's making you aware that that's not the right thing to do. That is conscience. It's like being touched from another dimension. Just where is conscience anyway? No, it's not the mores of your culture or the rules of your family or your religion or your faith practice or anything like that. There's also something, see, we can have artificial guilt where you do something and then your parents yell at you and then you feel guilty toward them. But mostly, what are you feeling guilty about? You're feeling guilty for resenting them. You see? That is a true conscience, but you misinterpret it. You think that you're guilty toward them, and then you try to make up to them. But actually, you're guilty before. See, your conscience has made you aware that you've made a mistake, and it's making you aware. It's not so much having to do with the other person. Yeah, you can go to the other person and say, "Hey, I'm sorry I did that," and clear the air, of course. But just as David said, remember David said, "Against you and you only have I sinned." He says that in one of the Psalms. Against you and you only have I sinned. So when you do something wrong and your conscience makes you aware that you did something wrong, it's making you aware that you stepped away from what was right, what God had in mind for you, what His will is, what is right and fair and just and appropriate. See? And like that, it can be a very, very, very subtle. And it can be where you're not supposed to do something and it doesn't even seem like it's wrong. In other words, you think, okay, I could walk this way to get to the store. Let's say it's late at night and you're walking and it's late at night and dark. And you say, well, I could walk this way to get there, or I could walk the other way. And then you think in your mind, well, I'll go this other way. It's a little bit shorter. But then something restrains you. You sense that it's not wise. It's not that it's wrong, but there's something about it that you're not supposed to go that way. You just sense deeply. It's a hunch. It's a gut level knowing. What do they say? Trust your gut. Your gut tells you don't go that way. So you don't. You go the first way instead, and you're safe and everything's fine. If you had gone the other way, who knows what would have happened on that other way? Probably something awful. So you were safe. It saved you. It preserved you, see, by your heeding it. You see what I mean? So it can be like that. It can be very subtle. But it comes from another dimension. It's from God. It doesn't come out of your brain. You didn't learn it in school. See, you can be a little tiny kid. You could be 2 years old, and I don't care where you are. You could be in India or Canada or Switzerland or Colombia or Texas, or you could be up in Sweden, or you could be over in South Africa. You could be all somewhere around the world. You could be in Hawaii. You could be in China. You could be anywhere. A little kid, doesn't matter what culture you're in. And you see somebody is being mean to another child. You see they're being mean to that child. And somehow you know that that's wrong. You can sense that it's wrong. Or when you're a little tiny kid and something is unfair, one kid is getting more than the other, or one kid is being treated nicer than the other. You can see the injustice. You see it. A teacher is being nicer to one kid and being unnecessarily mean to another kid. You can see that it's not right. You just see it. All right? So we all have that. And that is your lodestar. If you could stay close to that intuitive knowing, that gut level knowing, your whole life, then, well, look at Einstein for it. Or look at somebody like Stephen Jobs. He always said, trust your intuition. He founded Apple Computer, see, or Albert Einstein. It was his intuition. He went with his intuition. Even though everybody said that what he was saying was wrong, he somehow knew deep down that it was right, and he trusted it, and he didn't doubt it. And years later, it was proved that he was right. You see what I mean? Somebody like, Oh, I could just go down a long list of famous explorers or scientists or people people of faith. So in the Bible, see, in Hebrews, there's a chapter, they call it the Hall of Faith. All these people did things by faith. Noah was there 100 years working on, warning the people and working on that ark, and nobody paid any attention to him, and everything seemed fine for the first, 80, 90 years. Everything seemed just fine, but everything wasn't going to be fine. But he had faith. Moses, see, long before he was chosen by God, he already left the Pharaoh's house, went to the desert, became a sheep herder, lived there. He was following his intuition. The great aviators, see, followed their intuition, and it led them to success, to discoveries, and to be what they were meant to be. Your intuition, that is how God leads you.
Have you ever wondered why you're so restless, nervous, and uneasy? You have to find your ground of being. A meditation moment. I'm Jeremiah Trujillo. Augustine said it so beautifully. Our hearts are restless until we find rest in you. We try to find relaxation by drinking alcohol, smoking marijuana, or getting massages. How do you find rest in God? You've heard about Jesus. He said, "Find rest in me." Instead of placating guilt, why don't you find your Creator? Let Him lead you out of your selfishness. Find more inspiration for your day at sheddingshackles.com.
See? Now, of course, he also arranges things. So as you go through life, somebody appears, a teacher appears, or a door opens. One door closes and looks like things are not going good. Then you try something else and it doesn't work out. And you try something else and it doesn't work out. And then you try something else and it works out perfectly. As though it was a timing thing. At first, the timing was wrong, so there had to be a delay until the timing was just right. So it's like that. So God does arrange things, but mostly He communicates with you wordlessly. And I've always also said that God rarely talks with words. Mostly He shines a light on things that we see. We see the rightness of things. We see which way to go. Where does it go right or where does it go left? We see if something is okay or maybe it's not okay. We don't know why it's not okay, but we just know that it's not, so we don't go that way. So He shines a light on things. And yeah, that's like intuition also. So if you always followed your intuition, it would be present sight and a little bit of foresight. But when we stray from it, He doesn't abandon you. See, He doesn't abandon you. He's still there, but now it feels like conscience. Now He makes you aware that you had done something wrong, and you see it, and then if you heed your conscience, then you don't do it again. See what I mean? So it's all very beautiful, but it's intuitive, it's quiet, and it's God communicating with your soul. Now, thoughts rise up to distract you. See, things on the outside distract you. And yeah, okay, so they're there. And we have our iPhones and we have our television and we have all this stuff. Okay, all right. But don't forget God. In other words, ever so often, just step back and quietly remember Him.
You're listening to Shedding Shackles with Roland Trujillo, Christian stress management on the radio for over 34 years.
But don't forget God. In other words, ever so often, just step back and quietly remember Him. Quietly think of Him. Check with your intuition to see if it has something to tell you. When you're about to do something, let a moment go by and check with your intuition. That's it. It's that moment when you, instead of rushing to do something or rushing to say something, you let a moment go by, you let a heartbeat go by and check with your intuition. And that way you are inquiring of him, you're asking him, you're wondering, see, and he responds to that kind of a sincere searching, see. You lift up your eyes and you don't know what to say, you don't know what to do, and you inquire of him. And he responds to that kind of a sincere searching. And if nothing comes to you, then nothing's what you're supposed to do. But maybe a word will come to you or a gesture, something, and then it's right. But you see the difference between that and reaching down into your storehouse of knowledge and trying to dredge something up. And when you dredge something up, it's always wrong. See, it's always self-serving. It's always canned. It's not fresh. It's not alive. It's not spontaneous. It's, it's dead. The question is, are you talking to your kids or are you talking at them? A lot of parents talk at them. So instead of trying to prove something or to make a bold statement and impress people, or instead of trying to impatiently make something happen, just quietly watch and inquire and check with your intuition. And then you will move with understanding. See, that's it. It will impart understanding to your life. It will impart understanding to everything that you do. Until next time, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
You have been listening to Shedding Shackles with your host, Roland Trujillo. Now you can listen to Roland anytime by logging on to www.sheddingshackles.com. You'll find lots of free, helpful information, and you can also order materials or make a donation by using your credit card. Once again, the web address is sheddingshackles.com. Please remember that Shedding Shackles is listener supported. Thank you.
Shedding Shackles is sponsored by Roland Trujillo,